and join later. But in the meantime, if we can spread these videos to others, so maybe they can join in, because this is quite important. This is about community. This is about the cohesion of the community. This is how we can become independent away from government. We don't necessarily have to be part of government. We can help government in many respects, and then we can keep up with head, in pride and respect. So I want to talk today about community, and I hope my voice they come through loud and clear. And from which I read up on the machine now, hopefully the Wi-Fi not interfere again in terms of we upload speed, because now there we get problem. Download speed is not a problem, but at the upload speed, we need minimum 2 megabytes per second. And if a traffic is quite intense on a weekend, such as this one probably, then of course we're gonna be having problems as we are having. So we don't try. I think this is not the 4th one, but it seems like they come through. And Brother Victor Spain, I've been to say we missed you earlier on last week. We've been to talk about a very important issue. Sign on, but I guess you will have listened. One major contributor to this forum, and we appreciate all your effort, but we're happy for see you back anyway. Of course, Brother Mohammed Kamara, Supermed 111, a man where always they look after you back. What more can you ask for? Because even at our front, you get somebody where they look after you back, then you can focus on issues that are ahead of you. Supermed 111, brother, thanks, man. God alone knows how many times you've called me to make sure that we get this right and we go ahead with it. And I'm sure the audio is loud and clear. And if it's loud and clear, so therefore we go for move on, because we don't spend so much time. We're meant to start at 2000, which is about 8 o'clock, and then spend about 30 minutes or an hour. So by 9 o'clock, we'll be supposed for end. But here we are, 43 minutes past the hour for start, and we still try for struggle. But there's also an English proverb, better late than never. Thank you so much for those of you that don't join. Ladies and gentlemen, today we want to talk about community cohesion, the significance of community independence, how a community can be independent of a government, or even help a government for function in terms of governance. What all of that mean? But most importantly, I want to look at within what I call the NGO Charity Industrial Complex. This now I want to talk about. And I hope I will use about 30 minutes, because it's a huge subject that we can always come back to. I hope I will use 30 minutes or at least an hour. Not more than an hour, because we are far-fetched. And tomorrow Monday, most of we get for go back to work and school and you name it. So therefore we get for try for make them very, very short. Okay. Having said this, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, the subject we want to talk about is this: community cohesion, community independence, community strength. Whichever way we want for categorize them, it's important for we first of all understand the fundamental understanding or definition, if you would like, of the word itself, community, as supposed within the context we want to talk about. So therefore we ask, what is a community? The variation might be different a little bit from person to person, from community to community, from nation to nation, from tribe to tribe, but all along it boils down to one thing. So when I look up community definition, Wikipedia, Thesaurus, Oxford, Webster Dictionary, it tells me one thing. I not look at all the salad dressing around them, because all the dictionaries, they can get these differentiations in many of them, but then they all boil down to one thing. So the understanding of them as I look into the definition is like a group of people we get these different opinions or characteristics. The characters made up of the people that make up the community are kind of diverse, are kind of different, okay? But all of these are linked together by social ties. There's a common denominator between this group of people. This is important. And not only they talk about community in the sense of USA we come from, because USA some of us did right now, there is or should be a sense of community. So we share common perspectives and we engage in different things, then we jointly make we see things in one aspect. So even though we're different by some aspect of what the definition stand for or say, which is me and somebody can live in a community. That person happen for be an atheist. Who is an atheist? A non-believer. People that don't believe in this form of religion that we practice. Or a believer. So somebody believe in religion. But what kind of religion? Because the religions are different as well. So me believe in, I'm a Methodist, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And then somebody else believe in Catholicism. Somebody else believe in baptism, and things like that. And somebody, they will not believe at all. But we all happen to live in the same community. How do we get along? This is significant. Very, very significant. Hence why we choose the topic. But in as much as we try for say, we don't want to get involved in the active politics of things. But this just tells you how much you say you're not involved by politics or you're not one involved in politics. Yes, you are. Because even inside your house, your lunch where you fix in the morning for you beginning for go school. Your husband, whether be your husband, be your wife, your bedroom, what you want to discuss inside it is politics. So politics, nothing you want to knock and divert away from. Okay? It's something that you can, it's an everyday thing. It's part of the nature of human beings, the way we coexist with each other, which is very much what we are talking about today. So we can talk about the meaning of, or how, if we don't understand what we talked about earlier, how do we participate in a community? And when we talk about community, let me not remember, say, I repeat this because I think at the second time I say this, and maybe along the way of this broadcast, we go equally continue for say, let me not only look at community as to where we come up from. And when I say where we come up from or where we come from, earlier on I've been saying we get a few people that we join we not completely white people. Completely white people. I had a brother, who is a Swiss, not Swiss, a Norwegian national. I had another brother on who was also a Swedish national. Okay, Brother Carlson. Brother Carlson is a Swedish national. I met him some 14 years ago. We worked together and we've kept the bond ever since. So even though as a community, in terms of what we define, are a little bit different, but we kept it on. And even as I organized this program today, a man of pure iron, if you would like to say in the words of Hitler, we are not like for say, or a pure white guy, blue blood, if you would like to say, which again are not like for say, because the guy what they describe, he also look at we as, human beings. Yes, he look white, we're black. But you see, we, as a common, sort of agenda, common set of people. But then he joined this program today. And he joined me twice while we've been in a struggle for fame. We read them. Okay. I'm not seeing yet. Maybe don't sign on because a few people don't sign on, and I don't lost track of people who signed on earlier. But again, hence one of the reasons why I like for speak in English. But yes, we got a flow in English and clear. So it's very important, in terms of community, how it is. So when I talk about community, I not only talk about back home, I also talk about here. Those of us that are here. When I say here, I mean in the Western world where we are. Because on Sunday we can let for divert away from how we come out. We let for describe them differently. Yes, there are descriptions that can suit the situation back where we come up from. But generally speaking, in a generic fashion, community, now by that definition, is just a group of people, where we get different opinion, different views, different characteristics, but we are linked, or we can associate ourselves through social ties. We share this common perspective and we engage in actions, even though geographically we come on a different side, but because we are in that community, we are engaged in actions, which can define the community in which we accept, see, or we define ourselves of belonging to. So the people or those that make up part of this community, some can get different emphasis, on particular things then, where they want to see the direction for go, which doesn't make it different because that's how they see it. But overall, there's one common denominator, which is we all get these diverse characteristics, but the common denominator is the social ties. That's how we are kind of linked together. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important subject, and I hope say one they follow, and it's important that we follow because we as a people need for understanding basic fundamentals there so that it not divide we between where we find ourselves in a physical sense as to where we come out, where sometimes not emotional attachment, because most times when we talk, there is a lot of emotional attachment. Typical example, I have traveled a lot, be it West Africa. I'm not left for mention Europe because Europe now on holiday. But in Africa as a whole, now maybe they look for a humble beginning, some founding, something displace me, something make me go now another nation, which were either economic, political, a threat to my very existence. So when I go there and try to find a humble beginning, the definition be different, as opposed to where I am in Europe, where now greener pastures now they look for safety. But the safety cannot be defined in our strong terms there, because even back in Africa, when you move away from one side of the aisle to another, that be basically because of safety. You're not being safe, who side you fend yourself. So therefore you decide to go somewhere else, because you need, before you practice any other thing, be it your religion, be it your faith, be it your hobby, the first thing that need for exist is a situation where there is a peace of mind, where there is tranquility, where there is stability, where there is peace. That's the first issue where we need for establish ourselves. Now, if we live in a community, we need for be a participant in that community. So I'll speak first of all to those of us that are fortunate for finding ourselves now this part of the geographical landscape, which is away from Africa, here in Europe, or in America, in the Americas, for example. Okay. But one thing which is common is we need for participate in our community, because the participation itself is a process which enhances and lends credence to that particular community, which provides a sort of security appearance, a sense of being in that particular community. So the involvement of people in community and whatever project that community they go embrace, people they need for subscribe to that particular project, because the project is about the goodwill, the well-being of the community. So it's very, very critical. It's very, very essential that we participate in the communities that we find ourselves. Sometimes not only where we find ourselves, because you can become so professional, so much of an asset in your community side belong by virtue of your contribution and where you don't make there, that your name can go far and wide, in which you can be called upon or can lend a time like the school, an academic sense. That a visiting professor, ever heard the word a visiting professor? They can lend you for go lend that you sabi where you sabi to another community. In other words, you don't make so much contribution at your community that the things that way you say are documented. In other words, what I say, ladies and gentlemen, is this is a higher form of calling, that if we can take these things and push onto your community, then also we belong, it's kind of quite important that in the end they might call on us for learning with credence, with professional expertise. So then things there are where we don't put towards the community, we make a community, they stand out. Ladies and gentlemen, community participation is quite important. Not only here, and with the CNIA, sometimes when they organize them community meeting, and when they call, say we get meeting today, and why you for Mona. Listen, is it important that we attend? Of course, yes, it is. Do we just take it for granted that why did they call me again? I just come and walk. Or do we kind of learn something from that they call somebody where they participate in the community, that no matter what small contribution that you give, it amounts to something where can make a differential change in that community. So in other words, it can be your dirty box the location of your dirty box, the amount of time whether they collect your dirty, how many times did it take for that dirty they accumulate, as opposed to how many times did it take for the people that can collect that dirty. So every strand in that community there is important, by postcode, by estate, by phone number, by you postcode. They are all kind of important because of the contribution we make. So we do an analytical and no say SE something Nayanda ide. So the representation, because when in the coin SE something can represent the people in Aya, or NE or North London or South London or East London, then all in different ways that can represent something Aya. They not use some kind of algorithm. We go make them easier for them. We tap into the fact, see, this particular postcode, that this number of people can represent these people from this particular side of town, and what they can represent. Probably not the dirty issue, probably not social issue, in which there are broken windows, in which people in the trash the estate to say we live, but people in the harness all the information in there, because now they help them for make a progress for go forward. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, we can do the same thing. So community participation, or community as a whole, which is the subject matter today, not mean say a government normal, and not mean say we get for wait on government normal. It means say we self get for help. We can organize ourselves, and this is important. Organize ourselves into positions of strength, into positions where we can make statements, into positions where we can present statements, into a position where we can ask for statements, even probably from the authority, whether from the council in England or whether not back home from the city council or whatever small organization that we get. But this is the direction generally what I think say for begin for organize yourself. This is quite important. I can see that people are basically engaged. And remember, say, ladies and gentlemen, that this forum is kind of open. If at any time you want to make a contribution to what they say, you're free to do that. Just call me anytime, even when at the flow. I won't take any offense to that, because there's no monopolization of idea, of academics. Nobody know they monopolize that. Even the people in the bookman, the Bukati Washington, we get the name of book. They don't monopolize education. Neither did all those who followed, not those that came before. You can't monopolize it, because I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, even your daughter knows, even your son knows the one where you're born. And if we go by the biblical aspect of things, it's good for them to listen more and talk less. There is an intellectualism to this, because when you listen, regardless of whether the talk where it's being propagated is stupid, maybe not 100% of it is stupid, but if you're listening well, you can harness that 1% or 0. whatever percent of it does make sense, and it can mean so much in the broader narrative. This is how they want to make progress in this society where we live in, whether we want to call them philanthropists, we want to call them philosophers. That's how they made efforts. That's how they move ahead. Today we can quote many, many philosophers, be it Socrates, be it Plato, okay, and many more. Jeremy Bentham, where I like for quote because of the principles of utilitarianism, okay. Sometimes I get tongue-tied when I try to provide the definition or just pronouncing utilitarianism. I do get tongue-tied, which is, it's not really usual, but yes, of course, I'm human. But whether or not these kind of people and when they talk about, whether or not Mother Teresa way dedicating life about humanity, about humanitarianism, you know, these are the little things that they listen to about other people. And ladies and gentlemen, this is critical. And as we make progress, they make some critical inroads into how we're supposed to be. Because we tend to accept one side so much, and then we tend to look down on the other side so much, where we're supposed to make a juxtaposition between X and Y, where people learn coin, you know, whether or not geometry, whether or not algebra. Now, time people spend For arrive at waiting, definitely the arrive at way eventually makes sense, which means that we can do the same thing as well. Okay? But I speak largely to a community because we in the community, we are disenfranchised, if you like. I know I get a friend who always say, well, of course, the ball lie on the court, and I agree. Now, we responsible exactly for waiting to happen to we. We can change the dynamics today if we decide to. It comes at a price, but as long as we're willing, therefore, undertake that price day, and there shouldn't be any problem, to be honest. There shouldn't be any problem. But are we ready? Are we willing to take that initiative day for say, okay, we want to move things forward? Are we really ready? I've been talking about community participation, for example. We try to define, just like I will begin with community. Say, if we participate in our community, ladies and gentlemen, we need to be involved with the people pan project. And project is not a new sound of word to us. It's not a new phenomena to us. Is it? And I'm sure the answer is no. But when we mention project in this respect, it should be a project about us. I will deal with this later because this also is really important, and I wonder when I keep this or bear this in the back of my mind when I talk about this project or community participation or project as a whole. Why it should be about us and waiting, I mean about us. Okay? The participation of the community, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very important. Okay? If we get a sanitary emergency, for example, are we going to wait on others for can arrange them for we? Are we? Should we be waiting on government for can arrange them for we? Whereas the pressing issue is about us. The effect in the immediate now is about us. Do we wait on others to come first, or do we design a modus operandi, an MO for short, for address the issue? And I'm sure, say, we need for design something in the now, because if that's going to affect me, let me give you one example. Let's say I live on the 3rd floor, I live on the 4th floor. If we move away from here, Europe, and go to the Americas, maybe I live on the 20th floor, on the 30th floor of a block of flats, okay? And there's an emergency, further forbid, a fire incident, okay? Do I then wait, and I want to make an example to the Greenfield Tower way happening here in London. Do I then wait for the emergency services, which makes a lot of sense, but sometimes we have to use our discretion. We see how the emergency services now, for example, at the Greenfield Towers calamity, in which we lost few of young people, and they talk about Sierra Leonean people, Liberian people. Sierra Leonean people, they know say we lost 1 or 2 very, very good sisters. Now that calamity, they were happening at the Greenfield Tower. But only because we put all we faith, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but all of it, now somebody else, whether somebody else get life just like us, whether somebody else get for using your own discretion just like us, in a time of survival, he go think about himself first. Very rarely, very seldomly will people be selfless in their endeavor for change humanity, for help humanity. But in most times, of course, it's about themselves. Just like how you will be about yourself or your immediate family, so will others. That's why there is a degree between there and now for let you be able to make decisions and that small scope they will exist. It's quite important. We can count on the fire services because these are professional people. Say, well, I will stay put. And not me saying, for they assess the situations, because if there's a time example for you to jump, which will preserve your life, because that person, the way they come, now for can't secure your life, now for can't save your life. But you've devised, you deserve some kind of means for let you survive. And of course, you should go with it. What if the services does not respond in time? What if the services don't have the capacity for deal with the situation as it is? Do you perish in that circumstances? But of course, that will happen. But until you begin to use your head, and this is quite important. So ladies and gentlemen, as we follow this program this evening, I want to give respect and say thanks and appreciation to a few people that we just don't join after we. I say this, and this is critical, and before we land, we don't do 30 minutes already, and probably we'll do another 15 minutes and we'll end this program because it's not Sunday. No one take on our time up much because, of course, just like myself, I'm a working person and I get to go work tomorrow. So are the many of us. Mary MCBK Kaba. Mary MCBK Kaba. This MCBK, you know, yeah, I will personally, I will PV you as they call on social media. So you will tell me what in this MCBK mean. I really like this MCBK. I want to know what it mean, whether a name and how do you pronounce it, or whether an initial, how do you pronounce it? Okay. Brother Abraham Joshua Sahid, welcome to the program. But unallow we shape this video. Let me invite people, family and friends, let me invite them because this is important. This is about community. Quite important. Quite important, I will say. Okay. Let me invite friends and families. Spread the video. Above all, don't hesitate for making comments. You can make your comments now. Engage me in the chat room. If you engage me in the chat room, I see exactly what you say, and hopefully I'll be able to respond if I not just get carried away by what I'm saying. Okay, Sister Angela Aminata Sori Kamara. This you name here, I always tell you, so fantastic. I really like her, and if you hear how they pronounce her, Angela Aminata Sori Kamara. Thank you so much because always you provide me a link. Trust me, sister, I can always able to derive something from every time. Then link the way they give me channel, discussion, discourse, TV stations, radio stations. You are great. I do derive a lot from there. Okay. Brother Ibrahim Sori Tula. Man, brother, thank you so much for participating. Sister Dusuba Kaba. Dusuba, the program they come up again. Okay, please tell your organization, but I will talk to you. This is different. Bobby Brown. Bobby, I don't know how to say thanks. I mean, I've met you a couple of times and you've expressed kind sentiments to me to keep the job going. It's people like you at the back, at my side, that gives me the courage and inspiration, you know, for soldier on. And even though when I had technical problems today, 3 different times I get for sign on at different times, you are with me. For this, I commend you. Brother Arthur Sisi, you were with me from the beginning, or us, I will say, because I'm not alone, okay? And you continue to be with us. For this, I say thank you so much. I just want to go back because a lot of people did not sign on. Brother Yusuf Koroma, Sister Sarah Wula Tarawali. It's the Wula that I like between the Sarah and the Tarawali. Sister Sarah Wula Tarawali, okay? Sister Hannah Bokari, Mohammed Sankor, Brother Victor Spin, I missed you last week on a very important issue about corruption. Yes, but anyway, you've seen the tapes. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Brother Amadou Koroma and Sister KJ, I call on KJ, Sister Kadiatu Jalo. Kadiatu, I still get your ticket, don't forget. But thanks for tuning on. Today, we talk about community cohesion, and it's very, very important. And we got a number of people that we sign on to the channel. And because this community thing that we talk about is quite important. We talk about what is a community, why you will participate in a community. Nobody no need for can tell we within a community, also they share we common goal because na day we live, and how we can apply what they apply now to the other side, which is where we come from, whether na Conakry, Guinea you come from, whether na Banjul, Gambia you come from, whether na Monrovia, Liberia you come from, whether na Freetown, Sierra Leone you come from, and the list goes on and on. It's about community and understanding. How do we forge ahead? How do we, first of all, come together as a community? Community, we don't decide. Now, faith now bring we come together. Like, for example, during the war period, people then come up from a far end of the country, sometimes not from the urban metropolis, they come up from upland, they find themselves in the city, and somehow they find themselves in a community, different from what they understand where they come from, okay? But then they come with other people and together they forge a tie on how to go forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the community is very, very important. We should learn to understand who we are, why we are, and respect ourselves and with different opinions. We have to disagree to agree, but then we need to continue to go forward because, again, it's about life. It's about the essence of life. How do we survive? when people then run away, like during the war, for example, now because their life were threatened. When you come out now Africa, for example, and find yourself in Europe, some people were doing quite well. Some people came from a well-to-do family. Some people were gainfully employed and were doing well. But because the circumstances and the situation was not right, both in terms of their lives or other activities, you know, they decide for leave. And so then here we find ourselves today in different communities. So now the different community than this. Some are black, some are white, some are Indian, some are Asians, and you name it, some are Chinese. But sometimes we'll find ourselves in the same community, even though we come from different backgrounds. Don't we think that we need to come together and forge something we will make we for coexist as a people? And if we can do that now, yeah, in which we get different people from different backgrounds, then why don't we think we can do that as well as at home? Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we think that we can do this, you know, with different, you know, people, as we can do this at home? Well, largely it's about us, okay? But again, this is something where we need to understand, ladies and gentlemen. What does it mean for let we be a part of a community? You know something, Fambulen? If we are involved in a community, which some of us are trying to do, like in a few weeks' time, today is the 19th or the 20th, in about 1, 2, 3, 4, in about 4 weeks' time, one of the greatest show in London, and they talk about now we community. I can hate for say because it depends on how we define community. Yeah, there is one generic definition of community, but there's also applicability into what a community is and how people they do within the community. Now, so you take for lend credence into the community. A community now a group of people where they identify some common, you know, traits, some common things that way they make for them, let them go forward. We don't necessarily get for come up from the same tribe because tribes is different things and how they talk about. But then in a community, you get different tribes, you get different nationalities. How will they forge yourself or go forward? Okay, so I've been a tribe for say in like 6 weeks' time. I belong to an organization which is a registered, a bona fide registered charity in the United Kingdom and Wales. In other words, now an organization which has been granted a license by the British government for practice charity, not only in Aya, but also in Wales, not only in England, but also in Wales. Not only in Wales, but then also respect, recognize, and actually say they are on a practice on a charity. Now 5 different West African republics, which I'm about to name. Okay, that's the Republic of Sierra Leone, that's the Republic of Liberia, that's the Republic of Conakry, Guinea, that's the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, and that is the Republic of Banjul, Gambia. These are 5 countries where the British government, in terms of charitable resource, recognize we as a community, as an organization, as a charity called Bamioma. Limba people Lemboge, a feeling where they call already. I'm not Limba, so not a Limba organization. Those who know me know I'm not Limba. Okay, but we'll talk about that another time. But that program there, they come up, and when you talk about the best 5 or 10 programs there, now they report, the United Kingdom, Bamioma is among them. It's a charitable organization. That does not mean that I subscribe to charity in a sense, 100%, okay, because I get a different view. But in the meantime, this is what we are doing. But again, we ask ourselves, what will make it important for let we support each other? Now, I make a mention this. When we serve in a position of distrust, when we serve in a position of disadvantage. So we find out, say, they give, and others, then they ask others forgive. Okay? We find out, say, if you are genuine where you they give, it make you feel good, not so. Now, so charity organizations, then they thrive. Well, of course, you go let forgive because when somebody can appeal to you, say other people are vulnerable, your human instinct in you, they give you that courage and strength for letting you able to forgive. But while you give, you need to understand why you give. So therefore, what I lay emphasis on, for example, the British government don't look at the organization where me affiliate myself with, for example, which is Bamioma. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it is spelled Bamioma, B-A-M-E-O-M-A. So it's Bravo for B, Alpha for A, M for Mike, E for Echo, O for Oscar, M for Mike again, A for Alpha, Bamioma. They don't give you the go-ahead, say, we practice charitable business because we meet the requirements. Another organization as well is the Liberian Sisters for Charity. Then just host and launch a program. Bamioma, of course, is far advanced. She's been in this business for a number of years, whereas the Liberian Charity Organization, Liberian Sisters, they are just getting into it now and have just basically launched their programs. But there will be subsequent programs. So watch for their websites, look for information, call the members and ask them, how can you contribute? But we don't want to live on that. I definitely never associate myself or let people live on a charitable basis. I don't believe in that because that doesn't really help the core or fundamentals of the problem. But we know say in the meantime, we will give, now the more we feel happy, okay? We feel say we do good to our community. And we believe say we provide the wherewithal, the sense, the instruments, the material for every community that do well. Okay? For every community that do well. We know say for all of this succeed, it's important that we ourselves as a people get involved in our community. Whether be it in Sierra Leone, Freetown, whether be it in Monrovia, Liberia, whether be it in Conakry, Guinea, whether be it in Dakar, Senegal, whether be it in La Côte d'Ivoire, most the capital of La Côte d'Ivoire. Brain is getting old now, kind of getting stuck, okay? I will come to that, La Côte d'Ivoire, okay? Whether be it in Banjul, the Gambia, or Guinea-Bissau, Malabo, and the rest of it. We need to have a sense of community. Within a sense of community, how we can come together, how we can get a sense of belonging. I talked about this many months ago. There should be a sense of belonging. That sense of belonging, they give you a sense of security. They make like say you belong to something. Now, it make you can see once in a while, you see organizations like the alma maters of schools, be it secondary school, be it college or universities. People inform their organization and the sorority, if you would like to call it. This is a feeling of togetherness that once in a while we can all come and assemble. You know something, you know, like there's a saying, the best days of your life, now your school days. Because imagine how many times you go to school, or the number of years where you go to school, be it from primary school where you begin to really understand yourself after nursery, and then secondary school, and then university. And then you've got this pool of people come together and form an organization, and then when I meet the once in a year. So remember that bond won't have been fun. Some of us became boyfriends and girlfriends. Some of us became very close. Some of us participated in different things, different projects, different ideas. Some of us became innovative. So it's that sense of belonging that is very, very critical, okay? And it's very, very important that we identify with that sense of belonging. So we need to meet through different forums, different focus, different times, okay? There are many ways that we can participate in community team, okay? For example, when we go home, okay, I'm not doing much because sometimes I try to promote that here and it doesn't work well to the way that I do expect it, but I've tried. Sometimes I inject my own money into it. I try to advise me community, for example. Similar thing like what they do right now. I try to advise them what you for do. How for do for them we become strong. How for do for them we identify ourselves in a also we do. What are the things that we're supposed to do? We need clean water, for example. How do we get clean water? So that we organize ourselves, give everybody a kind of sense of responsibility, even if not everybody, but or in a strategic or particular sense, but everybody can become a participant. So, for example, we look at people with strategic career interest or know all. say, okay, you know what, now you go head the agency for the water business in this community, because probably you understand how this works anyway. You go engage in the mobilization of people and get people and for buy into this idea. What are they trying for, ladies and gentlemen? Let's just get people to get involved. When people get involved, then they avoid other things, then I will make them negative. Then they become independent, which is the point of the broadcast today. That you they wait for government alone for can do this for you. Probably now they take the task to government. Say, Papa, government, this is what we want as a people. We've identified the sources, the wherewithal, the asset that we would need in forging a way forward, which will bring benefit to this community. We don't identify water project, and we don't identify the way how we could go about the project. We get people and sons of the soil of the community. We go for Rabat College, for example. We go to the University of Liberia. We go to the University of the Ivory Coast, like Cote d'Ivoire. We go to the University of Guinea-Conakry. Okay, they are engineers. They don't say, so the pipe for pass, and I for pass, and we get for create this gutter, and we get for slant and this way, and you name it. And gradually we arrive at something, and we write a project and forward onto the government, and the government provide the incentive for let we make this project become real, for let we make it become viable, it become feasible. These are some of the things that we're talking about. We can support a local charity, but for let we support the local charity, that local charity needs to be formed in the first place. How many people have formed a local charity? Other than we are abroad and they try to instigate things on the other side. How many of us? So we need to empower people on the other side for form these charities so that we know exactly where they are in terms of these charities. We need to do that. We need for, I know say a lot of us involved in that because nothing we will like in terms of the sports program. I don't see Boku brothers, even some sisters, we don't buy football vest, because we people in back, they're so involved in sports. But it's not only sports, but I want to identify that. Because even last year, when I go down a couple of times, Mr. Steph buy sport materials. I mean, they try to organize a league in terms of a specific program. That did not kick off because we've been there for bury that down. But I also be involved with many other projects like Nakisi, for example, Myland Field, which I mean, you partly grow up, okay? I liaise with other people and we still inhabitants of that particular community there. Olu Williams, Waja, for example, with the talk, okay? Black Hole Road. Right now, I'm a member of that Black Hole Road organization. They not active, but I am there. They involve me there because they know, say, now part of the places that begin me humble beginning. But I'm equally international because after then or before then, I travel a lot. I began travel when I was probably 11 or 12 years. Yeah. So I've moved around a lot, and I would like for lend me expertise, to other areas then. Okay. And because money no dey, but if we're able to mobilize, we get the projects there more we can borrow into. We need to create scholarships, for example, where we know a lot of people and they do, women and men. Okay. Every time we go down, we need to participate in community projects, or we call meetings, for example. The meeting, a lot of us will tell the people what you want to tell them, where most times that's the things, that we do, to be honest. But sometimes what we need to do is convey the meeting there and ask the people there, what are the issues, ladies and gentlemen? We can't go act like, say, we know that all. We need to ask the people and waiting on the issues. Then we need to understand. We need to offer, we help to other family people, and there are a lot of people and where they stray. Okay? Some of us are teachers than I am. Some of us are medical experts than I am. Some of us are on medical teams who might not be experts, in specifics, but we get talents the way we can learn in variety of positions that we can go down and learn the expertise to the community the way we belong. Imagine, inside Freetown alone, when we look inside Europe, inside America, Freetown alone, Monrovia alone, get people, we belong to every one of them communities in there. So if every one of us should return to our communities during the period of a year, be it from the beginning to the end, And every time we go back to those communities, we learn something which we've learned on the other side in a professional sense, asking for nothing, only for help with community and for sustain. Build infrastructure, not in the physical sense. We can learn that which we must, with things the way we do. For example, okay, let's assume say me not train lawyer. I can go empower me people and for understand basic law, form a community, just like a union, find people them, not get for be all but 3, 4, 5 people them, organize them. That's an institution now we organize so we empower them by divulging what we know in terms of law. We will have read the laws in the country and empower those people, and probably those 3, 4 people that we can sponsor them for understanding law and they well, because then live na the ground and then can use that initiative then for empower with people and stand up for with people and embrace with people and stand up whenever the people need them. You can be a medical student. You can go and show people them for injections, for test blood, donate instruments them, here for high blood pressure, explain to we people and device method, whether not pamphlets, where people can go and share on what people and for understand in terms of common diseases, where we not be understand them. I mean, there is so much that we can do. You can go down and volunteer your time if you understand football, go coach a local team. You can decide, say, well, who students then where you map out students then are your community, the grades then where they in, whether in a primary school or secondary school. Unify people then in a common agenda in which secondary school they under what do you know about secondary school? Do you know the syllabus of the country, or people that will understand the syllabus? Recruit them, let them begin for contribute to the community by tutoring students then within that community they way out of secondary school going. Recruit other people who are of primary school education and able for empower other students of primary school education. Organize, here like a sort of town hall. Outside maybe there's a town hall. If town hall not they mobilize the community, they wanna put funds together, wanna accumulate or acquire a land. We wanna go build, some city in place. Outside the town can meet, outside the city can meet, outside the community can meet. One can discuss common things. This is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. If it's possible, when you cook, call people and let them come and can eat. You can't do that all the time because they're not there, but even once in a while, sometimes you do it even once a month, once a week. It depends on your earning power. Do that once a week, once a month. It's very important. It takes people a long way. Okay? Let we look for the community where it exists within those communities. Let we go there and show we where we are. Not in a boisterous manner, not for go bully yourself into people that we already did it, but for go be more engaging. Let we be more engaging, if you know what I mean. Okay? We can be of many, many use in our community. Be a volunteer, for example. Every Saturday, just like the cleaning program where they go on, mobilize your community. Sometimes before the community, they mobilize them during the week. You don't go look for the Alejo there, the big one then. You harness some funds for them. You contribute to the funds as well. But you get for create that empowerment culture inside them. You get for create that independence culture inside them. Okay? So that when you go, everybody able to make contribution, and that contribution is very, very transparent. People know within coming. And then when you they spend them, now the very community, people know say that indeed you spend them. Imagine how long this they go, how far this they go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is quite important. Today, those of you that are just joining, we will talk about community, how we can help for empower our community. We can look at other businesses then within our community. So when we go down, one thing I can see is internet services. Okay? If now 2 keyboard you go down with them. That can fit inside your suitcase and go donate them at your community. If now 1 or 2 monitors you go with, take them, can go to your community, go donate them to your community. Not ask for anything really. Or even if you ask, whatever you realize from the proceeds of that sale day, divert them to the other side because you don't really need them, do you? Okay? Help your neighbor. Look who are the next door to you. See the vulnerability in people. Sometimes old people and once upon a time they were as active as you were. They are no longer active as you are now. Remember, it's a process that in time to come, you will become just like the other, in which you are no longer physically active. and you go need people and for can help you. But imagine if you're not going to help others, how do you get others for can for help you? Lead by example. Okay? Mobilize the community. Una raise money, but before you raise the money, you therefore promote that integrity, that uprightness, that people can trust in you. Because of that they happen, there is no trust in our community. But we need to reinvigorate that once more into our community. Okay? You will ask yourself, do these things add up in aggregate? And my answer will be yes. It's a critical question, but the answer is yes. But one of the things I say, ladies and gentlemen, and this is not the critical part just before we end, okay? There has been a gross abuse by charity organization or organizations, and this is a fact. There has been a gross abuse by charity organizations, and this is a fact. We are at 54 minutes, and I promised I would try to end this program in about 1 hour, 15 minutes. I'm going to just rush this through because tomorrow is Monday. Okay? This is quite important, and we need to learn this. Because, like I was saying, there has been a gross violation of charity organizations. First of all, what all I've said, I ask whether all of it can be aggregated. And the answer is yes, if you put it into practice, good practice. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been an abuse by charity organizations. And this is including the United Nations, the Catholic Church, the pastors, the fathers. And I say this specifically. This might not go down well with other people. And this is where the problem becomes us. Because people are not understanding and accepting things they are. It's like, no. Or even if they know this, but it's like, no, you can't be saying this. But if we don't say these things, then how do we expect these things to benefit us? For example, the thing where we know, the fundamental thing where we know about these two-letter organizations, which is the United Nations, it's like it's a generous organization, which it is. There's no one that's going to argue in their right mind that the United Nations isn't. It's a generous organization, okay, that has done more good in the world than bad. But does that mean that we don't talk about the ills? That the shortcomings of the organization, we don't talk about it? Then how do we learn? How do we know that they've done wrong? So this is what I want to talk about just before I close this program. People don't also equally want to talk about the Catholic Church. That's a big thing. Imagine this church has got over a billion followers. So you want to talk about who are you? Who the hell do you think you are? An organization that has got over 1 billion people. But remember, 10 years ago, you wouldn't dare. 5 years ago, people started trying. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and here we are. We're still talking about the malfeasance, about the wrongdoings of the Catholic organization. It's a complete disgrace. We can say this today. I'm not saying this only because I want to say this. If you check the news media, it's all there. And these are things that we've been knowing. Look, I've been very, very, aware of this program as far back as maybe 24 or 26 years ago. That's the CRS, the Catholic Relief Organization, or CRS, whatever they call themselves, back in Africa. Remember, we've had our problems back in Africa over some, our problems go far beyond. But about 30 years ago, we had a new phenomenon in which governments were being overthrown, there were rebel wars all over the place, and all we depended on was organizations from abroad that seemed to have come to help us, but rather they looted our resources, which they continue to do. It was just a different design, okay, and many more. Abuse our people, our children, underage girls and boys, and the Catholic organization was just one of them. Today, what we said over 20, 25 years ago, a quarter of a century ago, is becoming very, very much so the ethics, or how dare I use that word, is becoming very much so the argument of today, that the Catholic organization did abuse young boys and girls all over where they went. It's in the news, it's in mainstream media, which means that it cannot be hidden any longer. But what they are doing is like they are trying to massage the problem. But let me go deviate away from that because this might be a different discussion for a different day. So These organizations, they preyed upon our vulnerable people. The pastors or fathers of Catholic organizations, they abused, they molested, they sodomized our young people, and this is not acceptable by any sense or means. Okay? It's no longer news. It's all over the place that this is what they did. Some of us knew this some 25, 30 years ago. We said this. I'm not a victim of them, but I knew victims of them. I knew when this was happening. Okay? I knew this. Recently, there was a disgraced Oxfam director, and that was Mr. Roland van Hoornmeren. I hope I pronounce it well. That was the Oxfam director. If we just go a few months back, probably 3 months back, 4 months back, he was very predominant on the news media in terms of abuse. Because why? Oxfam is a British organization, okay, that does good for people abroad. They employed this guy, Roland van Hoornmeren, to become the director of Oxfam in Haiti. Remember, in 2010, Haiti had some massive earthquake in which thousands of people lost their lives, in which over 2 to 3 million people were displaced. That was a massive earthquake, okay? In which over 300,000 people or more were affected directly by this earthquake in terms of sickness, displacement, and etc. Okay? Oxfam employed a man, Roland, I will go by his first name because that's much more pronounceable. There was a man that has been expelled from the Republic of Liberia, Monrovia, for the same charges or case, abusing young boys and girls. He was expelled. But this was a man that was employed. I don't know what mechanism that they use, because those of us that are here know that they take us through, a methodic search, if you like, to arrive at conclusions. So if I apply for a job, there are channels, there are methods that I have to go through, and I have to fit or meet all the criteria and requirements of those criteria requested. But somehow a man who had been expelled from the Republic of Liberia was employed by Oxfam to head the department in Haiti. At the height of a criteria of a crisis, which could not be rivaled in the immediate now. That's what a man who had abused other people, other children in the Republic of Liberia was employed to do. Now, what would you expect? Of course, he went on to do the same thing. He abused, he held, orgies in Haiti, bestiality in Haiti, abuse, the young. The age of consent in Haiti is 18 years. That's significant because in Liberia, I think it was 14 or it's 14 and the rest of it. In Haiti, it's 18. But he went way beyond that, below that age of consent. So what he did practice, in fact, was amounted to pedophilia. The man who succeeded him after he was excused from duty, a man called Damien. Yeah, Damien. I did follow all of the story. Damien Berendorf. He was also fired for inappropriate behavior. They've got these romantic ways in which they coin the behaviors of theirs. Inappropriate behavior. Up to today, nothing has been disclosed as what amounts to inappropriate behavior. But we know that the man who succeeded, Roland van Hoornmeren, or pedophilia, a man who practiced bestiality and orgy, a man who was accused of pedophilia, went on to be succeeded by a man called Damien Berendorf, who was later fired for inappropriate behavior. And up to today, nothing has been brought against these people. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you through one or two things quickly, and then we'll bring this program to an end. The record is it's unbelievable but real. Remember, in 2016, there were French soldiers in CAR. That's the abbreviation of the Central African Republic, CAR, French soldiers, I'm talking about France, Paris, soldiers of the French Republic were stationed in the African Republic, again at a time of a crisis when most of its people were vulnerable, by a crisis created by them in the first place. I say clearly, with no regrets, that it was them that created a crisis. It was them that came, and I will prove that towards the end of the show. These troops were accused of rape, of sodomy, and bestiality by over 100 girls and boys. Above all, underage. Today, 2 or 3 years after the incident, not one person has been prosecuted. And you have to ask the question, is it us? Or do we need to rethink our strategy? Do we need to understand certain things? Of course we need to understand certain things. Of course. Let me take your memory back, ladies and gentlemen. In 2010, that's 8 years ago, at the height of the Haiti, how do you call it? Land disaster, okay? Haiti had an earthquake, struggling to find the word earthquake. That is in 2010. The UN went in there and took over Haiti, running services for that country, okay? But 6 years on, they were to admit what the Haitian people had accused them of. Imagine 6 years on, in 2010, the Haitian people were the most vulnerable on earth. They had an earthquake. I've forgotten the magnitude of the earthquake, but thousands and thousands of Haitian people lay dead. Infrastructure lay crumbled. 2 million plus more Haitians lay waste. United Nations came in with their uniform and their blue berets to help, or so to speak. But what they did, they helped to add to the misery of these people. Remember, probably we will have forgotten, because this is typical of us, that we do forget that Haiti was contaminated or had an outbreak of cholera. Remember that. They already had an earthquake of a huge magnitude in which almost all of its infrastructure came down. I mean, even the house that housed the government, the president, came down. So you can imagine. Everything basic in a country that finds itself in an hemisphere suffering had nothing left when this earthquake struck. Nepalese troops were actually responsible for the outbreak of cholera. Cholera. And that cholera day, Fambule, it left over 7,000 to 8,000 Haitian people dead. And not only that, more than 500,000 Haitian people, okay, more than 500,000 of Asian people were infected by that cholera day, by people wearing the uniform of people we went to help. Has anybody been held accountable? No. Just like the man we come on Liberia was never held accountable, just like that same man we end up in Haiti, just like so many of them. No. But this is the point, ladies and gentlemen. There is an army of NGOs. There is an army of NGOs when they invade our country. And every time we find ourselves in a crisis, these people find themselves to be entirely in charge. Imagine, these people are foreigners. They've just come. Sometimes we ask them to come. By international relations, this is how it's meant to happen. You are meant to invite people to come. Whatever the situation in crisis or some other issues, you are the one that will invite them. It has to be by invitation. But that again depends on the circumstance. So without the circumstance, it could be other things. So therefore they can come. So if Haiti not been there in a position for ask them to come, they can come depending on the situation. If Sierra Leone was not in the situation to ask them to come, depending on that situation that existed then, Ebola, for example, then of course they can come. If Liberia was not in a situation to invite them to come, then of course they can come. If Conakry Guinea was not in a position to invite the French people to come, you know, depending on the position that they found themselves, then of course they can come. But this is the point, ladies and gentlemen. Vulnerable people, that is my people, our people, they are preyed upon, underage children. I mean, this hurts. I've got underage child, and I know most of us that are watching have got underage child. We can't take ourselves away from the problem simply because the few of us find ourselves here where we think we are safe. But what about those that we are kind of connected to, either by the strands of DNA, or by community, or by geography, or by tribe, or by nationality? What about them? That's why we need to form a bond together, that we come together to fight these injustices. Okay? We find ourselves in vulnerable positions in which these people come. And when they come, they take over everything. That's what they do. Because you are not in a position to call the terms and conditions. And they've come and they take over everything. So when they come, prostitution spikes up because people have to survive. But what do? Even though these people abuse our children, even though these people practice what is known as pedophilia, abusing underage children, sodomizing, involving, like Caligula kind of sex, bestiality. Yet the benefit of the doubt is given to them. That is, if it ever comes out, most times it doesn't come out, they go on to continue this abuse. That's the kind of situation that we find ourselves, and call our little boys and girls as prostitutes. This is the way foreign press calls them. How long are we going to tolerate this? How much more are we going to tolerate this? Charitable and military projects are colonial projects which have just come to oversee how to extract minerals and continue to exploit us in our countries. NGOs, non-governmental organizations, ladies and gentlemen, are accredited by the United Nations. That's the body itself, that's the world police that gives them the accreditations, okay? As NGOs, they are not under obligation. As NGOs, they are under obligation not to have sex because they have rules and norms that guides them. They don't have to have sex with minors. Much more, people are meant to benefit, or people are meant to benefit from whatever that they've brought for those people. So in other words, you cannot exploit a people who are already down and vulnerable and have got nothing. But we are talking about pedophilia, and it's a crime. Yet all of what I've outlined, be it the French army in the Central African Republic, be it the director of Oxfam, Roland, in Liberia, and later subsequently in Haiti, and many, many more, who's been prosecuted. Instead, they keep asking us, or even accusing our young people of being prostitutes. How dare they? How can they? This is unacceptable. The military comes into place whenever there is a crisis. Even if it's not in the military form, we saw that in our country. Let me give you a typical example in Sierra Leone in the 90s. We were vulnerable, we needed help. What came in? Nigeria. We appreciated that they came in. But if we were to document what happened subsequently, to this day, some of us will not be that forgiving. Some of us will not laud their accomplishments. No. You find yourself in a position of vulnerability, so you call on people to come and help you. But no sooner than they come, they exploit your vulnerability, which is against international law. International law frowns on this, but they get away with it. Yes, they do. Whenever they come and occupy our countries, all they do is plunder, rape our people, plunder our resources. The NGOs that I want to call the charity organizations, which is an industrial complex because we see them multiplying, the mushrooming effect that I want to call it. Okay? They do whatever they want whenever they come into our countries. Ladies and gentlemen, don't you see this as occupation? They make so much money, and this is the advantage or disadvantage, depending on which way you're looking at it, than the locals. And we know what money is, so therefore they call the shots. Imagine they say they've come, quote unquote, to help you, but sooner or later they find themselves in a position in which they can abuse you. They find themselves making far much more money than you because most likely they are paid in Forex by these foreign organizations, most likely the United Nations, who send them in. And remember, there are rules and regulations of the United Nations that you cannot abuse a vulnerable people. You cannot exchange anything for sex because they know that's likely, but yet exactly this is what they do. So how can you go up against people that are far more stronger than you? In many respects, they've got more money than you. So therefore, they call the shots. Whatever system that exists in your place, they can go around that system. They can bribe that system. Okay? So the question then becomes, can we manage without NGOs? Can we? And the answer is simple. It's a big fat Y in capital letters, Y-E-S. Yes, we can. The question therefore is, are we willing or are we ready to take the risk that comes with taking or making those kind of decisions? Because let's get it. It's not easy. It's really hard. But yes, we can. I mean, if you've got someone abusing you all the time, there comes a time when you say enough is enough. I'm not having this anymore. It's like in the UK, for example, we keep seeing cases upon cases that sometimes goes decades ago in which people that had it the other way, you know, said that, well, it's enough. Or facilities are being created or atmosphere is being created in which these people are being empowered to speak. No longer do they feel, you know, that they can be discriminated against or they can be bullied or action can be taken against them. So they are being empowered so they can speak. And in so doing, they are being able to come out and say a lot of things that normally would have been swept under the carpet. It's the same thing. Can we imagine that we can do without these NGOs? Yes, we can. Of course we can. It doesn't mean that it's not difficult, but we have to find the courage deep within ourselves. We have to find the strength deep within ourselves that yes, we can. As I speak, Ghana, one of the founding fathers of the African redemption, of the African fight against colonialism, against the yoke of oppression, is trying to win itself out of charitable causes, out of handouts. Well, if we were in a stronger position than Ghana many decades ago, and Ghana is making strides, and I salute the Ghanaians in Ghana, then of course we can. So we need to dig deep and follow the examples of others. Why do I say this? Because it doesn't help. It really doesn't help. This is critical, ladies and gentlemen. Charities, they are only there to assist me and you with the symptoms of the problem. So once we identify the symptoms of the problem, now that's the charity they come for assist we with. They never really, address the issue of roots or the root cause of these problems, do they? No, they don't. That's a big N-O, capital. No, they don't, and I can say that with emphasis because they've been doing this for decades. If there was a solution to this, of course there's a solution, pardon me, but if they wanted to, solve or fix this problem, why 30, 40, 50, 60 years or more counting on, we're still having them to come and show us how to harness the energy of our resources. Why? How do we get clean drinking water, for example? How do we? That's what they come to do. Assist us with the symptoms of the problem, not really addressing the root cause of the problem. To this day, most of our countries don't have clean drinking water. No health care in our societies that we come from. I'm talking about proper health care. None. No infrastructure at all. And these are all symptoms of the greater problems in countries like Sierra Leone, to which of the bulk of the people I'm speaking to today comes from. So, you know, we can look back at colonial times. Some of the structures were left with us, and we're quick to accuse ourselves, you know, of having abused what was left. But we seriously understand what the problem is. And that's why I asked for from the beginning of this program. Do we seriously understand it? No, we don't. Because if we do, some of the questions or the pronouncements that we make, we won't be doing that. Because they've really never left us. Keep this at the back of your mind. All imperialism, all hegemony, it comes in and takes our resources. All imperialism comes in and takes our resources. So sometimes there's an appearance of you being free, and it's easy for those detractors that will say, but of course they left you this, of course you could have done that. And then you need to go and ask yourself, were you really left free? Do you know the prefix neo-colonialism? Neo meaning new, that our forefathers, our forebearers spoke of over 50, 60 years ago, because they saw this to come, because they understood the problem then as they will have understood it now. They did. Yes, they did. Some of us don't. And we find ourselves as individuals because we find ourselves in positions of empowerment as individuals, not as communities. Why we are talking about communities today. So I can't point my finger at a particular person, Mr. Johnson, Roosevelt, Mr. Brian McNamara, and say he's very successful, and I look around and I cannot see the community. Come on, I don't see that as success. You are just an individual. Do you know how many individuals are successful? How can you empower your community that you come from? What did you do to get successful? I'm not going to look into that, but if your community is not successful, or whatever way you're successful and your community doesn't benefit from that, I have no respect for you. I've got zero respect for you. It's as simple as that. Okay? So I can't be carried away with your rhetoric. You try hard enough. Of course, we are all trying hard enough. But you need to understand that imperialism comes in and take all our resources. We're just part of a global system. And that's how they take us until some of us try to wean ourselves off the situation. So, ladies and gentlemen, the answer is not about charities or the agencies that say they come to help us. Okay? We have to take away these agencies away from the middle. We have to try and administer these public services such as clean water and health and the care system. We have to do these ourselves. Okay? We need to go to our government ourselves. These communities that I spoke of, not from the outside, but from within. Go to the government and tell the government that this is it. This is what we want to do, and this is the way we want to do it. And this is where we need your help from. Okay? So again, ladies and gentlemen, all what I've said, the answer is not about charities, because the charities are only there to assist with the symptoms of the problem and not the root cause of the problem. So it keeps going on and on. How come you hear that clean water? How dare they? Clean water, to drink clean water, that 30, 40, 50 years on, we still need people to come and teach us. Have you thought about this? Teach us how to harness clean water, how to make hand pump, to generate the energy to pump the water forward and chlorinate water so that we can drink pure water. Do we really need outside sources to do this for us after they will have taught us this for the last 50 years? Doesn't it occur that something else is wrong? So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the answer is not charity organizations or agencies, because if we take them away and take away the foreigners to administer these public services, I have no doubt that we will do well. Just because I've said this, now 50 years on, why should they be teaching us how to chlorinate water, to drink clean water? Don't we know this ourselves? Are we that much of an idiot? Are we? And I'm sure we're not. The reason why we have UN sex rings all over the place, and that's how I call it, these are sex rings. Every time they come, that's what they do. They abuse our people, regardless of the uniform and the blue beret. That's what they do. They take advantage of our people. The evidence is there. Just read many, many reports. Many reports. Sometimes people ask for reports. I don't have to physically give it to you. Do the research yourself. It's there. Has it ever marveled you why we've got all these strange diseases? Why? Why? We never had these. But lately we have. Because we've encouraged others to take care of our health system. We don't ask them questions. They fly in with vaccines. What are these vaccines? They fly in with antidotes. What are these antidotes? They fly in with coolers or refrigerated, all kind of samples of bacteria and what have you. We allow them to open industries and pharmaceuticals and laboratories without asking them, what are these? And then when our people get sick of strange diseases and we begin to ask ourselves, what is going on? Ladies and gentlemen, I need to end this. But this is it. This is serious. Have you ever asked yourself, why have you noticed all the strange diseases in our country? Why is it only one particular people have got the antidote to a particular disease? Why is it? Why is it only us that die from these diseases? Okay, but others so-called that acquire or get infected by these diseases are cured by antidotes. And if these antidotes are made available on time, people do survive it. Why is it? Why isn't our people thinking that the United States Army, for example, has got a bacterial war scientific program in which they use human guinea pigs? And if they could have used Afro-Americans then in the 1930s, between the 1930s and 50s, they can't do it now because the people's eyes there are open. It's easy for them to do it here in Africa, contaminate our waters, our valleys, our springs, and monitor us as human guinea pigs, even though some of us refuse to buy into this, that this cannot happen. You don't know nothing yet. That our continent is being militarized. All in the name of exploitation, because in the end, they will extract what they want. You ever ask yourself why we depend on others many decades on to come and purify waters for us? That we're that dumb, we cannot learn these things, that we see them? Why we call them to come and sanitize our health systems? Other people to come and take care of our health. We cannot do it ourselves. And when we get sick of strange diseases, we sort of marvel and scratch our heads. Wonder why there are always these strange diseases. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to institutionalize the rule of law. Finally, foreign aid, ladies and gentlemen, it cripples African countries. We know, and I've spoken on this before, the Bretton Woods Agreement, normally known as the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and all its other arms, they give us loans. They do. Loans. Ghana, again, I applaud you for trying to win yourself off this. Why? Because the corporate plunder of our resources, our land, our people, it far exceeds the loan that these people gives us. Far exceeds the loans that these people give us. We don't necessarily have to be part of the NGO or charitable complex. We don't. And some people are scratching their heads and it gets tough talking about this because maybe you got a family member or a friend or a relative who benefits directly, here from these NGOs, because this is what they do. The same old divisive tactic of, divide and rule. That my immediate cousin is the director general or the country programmer of this organization. So therefore I can speak against it. that a few people benefit at the expense of 1 million people. What sense does that make? No, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to say it. Okay? Foreign aid cripples our economy, as was proven last week or the week before last. I spoke on this, which is the SAP program, Structural Adjustment Program, that asks you to open up your market to others. They don't open the market to you, but you open their market to them. They ask you before they can give you the money that they're giving you to take 25% of a critical part of your economy, which you can apportion to critical stages of your human index, health, education. They say no. Take 25% away from that. So how do you develop those sectors? How do you? It's the same thing, and today we'll continue to take those loans. Corporate blunder or plunder continue to exploit us far more than they give us. So therefore, I say we don't necessarily have to be a part of their organizations. To hell with the organizations. Let them have their organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, we can organize ourselves. And this is the core message of this program in terms of community cohesion. I start, and this is where I want to end. We can organize ourselves, and this is something I believe in strongly. We can reach out to those who want to help us. We're not saying that they shouldn't help us. Of course, it's an age-old tradition. Whoever wants to help us can help us.